Lisa Martinez stepped out of the transport ship and looked around the massive space station. The place was huge, with tall silver walls that seemed to go on forever. Bright lights hung from the ceiling, and strange sounds echoed through the hallways. This was Nexus Prime, home to the Galactic Council, and Lisa was the first human ever to visit. Her aide Kevin Brooks walked beside her, carrying a small bag with their supplies. Kevin looked nervous, but Lisa felt excited. After years of radio signals and long-distance talks, humans were finally meeting other smart species face to face. "Remember," Lisa said to Kevin as they walked, "we need to make a good first impression. Earth is counting on us." Kevin nodded and checked his notes again. They had studied for months to learn about the 12 different alien species in the Council. Each one came from a different part of the galaxy, and each one was very different from humans. A tall, thin creature with blue skin approached them. It had 4 arms and large yellow eyes that blinked slowly. This was Ambassador Veltar from the planet Zephyria. Veltar had been chosen to help the humans understand how the Council worked. "Welcome, humans," Veltar said in perfect English. The translation device around its neck glowed softly as it spoke. "We are honored to have your species join our community." Lisa smiled and shook one of Veltar's hands. The alien skin felt smooth and cool. "Thank you for having us. We're excited to learn about the galaxy and share what we know about Earth." Veltar led them through long corridors filled with beings Lisa had never imagined. Some looked like giant insects, others like living rocks, and a few seemed to be made of gas or liquid held in special suits. Every species had found its own way to survive and grow smart enough to travel between stars. They entered a huge round room with seats arranged in a circle. This was the main council chamber. Each seat was designed for a different type of body, from tiny platforms for small creatures to large pools for water-dwelling species. "This is where we make decisions that affect the whole galaxy," Veltar explained. "Trade agreements, territory disputes, and resource sharing all get discussed here." Lisa looked around in wonder. In one area, she saw beings that looked like crystals growing from the floor. In another section, creatures that seemed to be made of metal sat perfectly still. Near the far wall, a tank of purple liquid held something that might have been alive, though Lisa couldn't be sure. "Would you like to meet some of the other ambassadors?" Veltar asked. Before Lisa could answer, her throat felt dry from all the walking and talking. She reached into her bag and pulled out a plastic bottle filled with clear liquid. Without thinking, she twisted off the cap and took a long drink of water. The entire room went silent. Every alien in the chamber turned to stare at Lisa. Some of them started making strange noises that sounded like alarms going off. Others began touching devices on their bodies, probably translation equipment, as if they couldn't believe what they had heard or seen. A creature that looked like a walking tree made of blue coral began shaking its branches frantically. This was Hydrus 9 from the Aquatic Sovereignty, a group of species that lived in water. Hydrus 9's voice came through its translator as a series of high-pitched whistles. Did that human just consume pure water?" Hydrus 9 asked, its voice shaking. "In liquid form, without any protective equipment?" Lisa looked around, confused. Yes. I was thirsty." Several aliens immediately began backing away from her. A being made of what appeared to be living crystals, representing Mineral Prime, made a sharp cracking sound. One of its arm-like projections broke off and fell to the floor with a loud crash. "This cannot be correct," the crystal being said, its voice sounding like rocks grinding together. "The translation must be wrong. No species can safely handle pure water without environmental protection." Kevin looked at Lisa with wide eyes. He had no idea what was happening either. Lisa held up her water bottle and half the room's occupants moved even further away. "I'm sorry," Lisa said, trying to sound calm. "Did I do something wrong? This is just water. We drink it every day on Earth." A gaseous being in a containment suit started flickering different colors rapidly. This was apparently how its species showed extreme stress. "Every day?" It wheezed through its translator. "You consume water every day?" "Well, yes," Lisa said. "Humans need water to live. We drink several glasses every day." The room erupted in chaos. Aliens began talking rapidly in their own languages, their translators working overtime to keep up. Some species started what looked like emergency communications with their homeworlds. Others seemed to be having trouble breathing, or whatever their species did instead of breathing. Veltar quickly moved between Lisa and the other aliens, holding up all four arms. "Please, everyone, let us remain calm. There may be a misunderstanding about human physiology." "Misunderstanding?" squeaked a small furry creature from a chair near the ceiling. "She just drank liquid water like it was nothing. That's impossible." Lisa was beginning to understand that water might be more important to these aliens than she had realized. On Earth, water was everywhere. It fell from the sky, filled the oceans, and flowed in rivers. Humans used it for drinking, cooking, cleaning, and even fun activities like swimming. But looking at the faces around her, Lisa realized that other species might not have been so lucky. "How much water does your planet have?" asked a being that looked like a large slug covered in shimmering scales. Lisa thought for a moment. "About 70% of Earth's surface is covered in water. We have huge oceans, thousands of rivers, and millions of lakes." 3 more aliens fainted. The crystal, being that had lost an arm earlier, began making a sound like a grinding machine. 70%? It repeated. "Your planet is 70% water?" "Yes," Lisa said. "Is that unusual?" The room fell silent again, but this time it was different. Instead of shock, Lisa could feel something else in the air. Fear? Respect? She wasn't sure. Veltar cleared its throat or made the sound its species used instead. "Ambassador Martinez," it said formally, "I think we need to schedule a much longer meeting. Your species may be more remarkable than we first understood." Lisa looked at Kevin, who shrugged helplessly. She took another sip of water, causing several aliens to gasp, and nodded. "I think you're right," she said. "We have a lot to talk about." 3 hours after Lisa Martinez had shocked the Galactic Council by drinking water, emergency sessions were being called across the galaxy. The news spread faster than light through quantum communication networks, and every species wanted to know the same thing. How did humans have unlimited access to water? In the Council's emergency meeting room, 12 species representatives sat around a table that changed shape to accommodate each alien's needs. The air was thick with tension, and the smell of various alien breathing gases. "We must assume the humans have developed advanced water synthesis technology," said Commander Zekhar, a military leader from the warrior clans of Rigel. His species looked like armored lizards and had fought 3 wars over single drops of water. "No species, naturally, has access to pure water in such quantities." Ambassador Veltar shook its blue head. "I observed the human female closely. She showed no signs of deception. Her vital signs indicated she was telling the truth about her planet." Meanwhile, 3 billion miles away, Captain Jake Phillips received the strangest order of his career. He stood on the bridge of the Earth vessel Meridian, reading the message from the Galactic Council for the 3rd time. "Sir?" asked his second officer, Lieutenant Amy Chen. "What do the aliens want?" Jake scratched his head. "They're requesting immediate transport of Earth's water production facilities for inspection by their science teams. They want to see our water synthesis technology." Amy looked confused. "Water synthesis technology? You mean like rain?" "I think they want to see our water treatment plants," Jake said slowly. "But they're talking about it like we've invented something impossible." Back on Nexus Prime, Dr. Amy Foster was having the strangest conversation of her life. As Earth's lead xenobiologist, she had been called in to explain human biology to the Council's Science Committee. The problem was, the aliens refused to believe her explanations. "Dr. Foster," said the lead scientist, a being that looked like a floating jellyfish made of light, "you claim that humans consume between 2 and 4 liters of pure water every day?" "That's correct," Amy said patiently. "We need water for our cells to function properly. Our bodies are about 60% water, the jellyfish being pulsed. Bright red, which Amy had learned meant it was experiencing extreme stress. 60% water? And you remain solid?" Yes, we have skin and muscles and bones that hold everything together, Amy explained. Water flows through our blood and helps our organs work. A creature that looked like a crab made of metal clicked its claws nervously. On our world, we extract moisture from special crystals. One crystal provides enough water for a family of 8 for an entire year. We guard these crystals with our lives. Amy nodded, trying to understand. That sounds very difficult. On Earth, if we need water, we just turn on a faucet. A faucet? Asked the jellyfish being. It's a device that controls the flow of water. Through pipes, Amy explained. We have water systems in all our cities. Clean water comes right into our homes. The metal crab fell over backward. While Amy tried to explain plumbing to increasingly bewildered scientists, news of humanity's water abundance was causing chaos across the galaxy. On the desert planet Eridus 7, the entire government held an emergency meeting. If the humans truly have unlimited water, said Prime Minister Skla, a reptilian being whose species had evolved to survive on almost no moisture, we must establish trade relations immediately. What could we possibly offer them? Asked the Minister of Resources. They claim their planet is 70% water. What does a species like that need? Anything, Skla said firmly. Everything we have. Water is life. Similar conversations were happening on hundreds of worlds. The Vapor Collective, a group of gaseous beings who lived in specialized atmosphere suits, called an emergency assembly. They had built their entire civilization around capturing and storing tiny amounts of water vapor from space. If humans have mastered water production, announced their leader through a voice synthesizer, they are the most powerful species in the galaxy. We should offer them a military alliance immediately. The Moisture Monks, a religious order that had spent thousands of years worshipping water as the source of all life, were having a complete crisis of faith. Their holy books spoke of a mythical realm where water flowed freely, but they had always assumed it was just a story. Brother Dewdrop, the order's highest priest, sat in meditation before their most sacred relic, a single drop of water preserved in a crystal case for over 1,000 years. Perhaps, he whispered to his fellow monks, the humans come from the sacred realm itself. Back on Nexus Prime, the situation was getting more complicated by the hour. Ambassador Lisa Martinez sat in a conference room with Kevin Brooks trying to answer questions from increasingly desperate alien representatives. Ambassador Martinez, said the representative from the Ice Haulers Union, a species that made their living by transporting frozen water between planets. If your people can create water easily, our entire economy will collapse. Lisa felt terrible. She hadn't meant to cause problems for anyone. I'm sorry, but we don't create water. It just exists naturally on our planet. Naturally? The Ice Hauler's translator made a sound like screaming. Water cannot exist naturally in large quantities. It violates the fundamental laws of resource scarcity. Kevin leaned over to Lisa. I think we should call Earth, he whispered. The government needs to know what's happening here. Lisa nodded. This had gone far beyond a simple diplomatic meeting. The aliens weren't just surprised by human water use. They were acting like humans had announced they could create gold from thin air. An hour later, Dr. Helen Murphy, Earth's best atmospheric scientist, joined the video call from her laboratory in Colorado. She appeared on the meeting room's main screen, sitting in front of windows that showed snow-covered mountains. Dr. Murphy, Lisa said, can you explain to our alien friends how Earth's water cycle works? Helen smiled and held up a simple diagram. Of course, water on Earth moves in a continuous cycle. It evaporates from oceans and lakes, forms clouds, and falls back down as rain or snow. The alien representative stared at the screen in silence. Water falls from your sky? Asked the representative from the Desert Alliance, a confederation of species from dry worlds. Yes, Helen said cheerfully. Sometimes quite a lot of it. Yesterday we got 2 inches of rain in just 1 hour. 2 inches? The desert representative's translator started making error sounds. In 1 hour? That's not even very much, Helen laughed. Last month we had a storm that dropped 6 inches in a single day. The video call was suddenly filled with the sounds of alien species trying to process this information. Some were making noises that sounded like crying. Others appeared to be praying. Lisa looked around the room at the overwhelmed aliens and realized that everything was about to change. Humans hadn't just joined the galactic community, they had accidentally revealed that they possessed something every other species considered more valuable than anything else in the universe. She took another sip of water from her bottle, and this time, nobody fainted. They were all too busy trying to figure out how to get to Earth. Within a week of Lisa Martinez's first meeting with the Galactic Council, the news about human water usage had spread to every corner of the galaxy. What started as scientific curiosity quickly turned into something much bigger and more dangerous. Commander Ryan Davis stood on the bridge of the exploration ship Atlas, reading message after message from his communication officer. Each one was more desperate than the last. "Sir," said Lieutenant Sarah Kim, looking up from her station, "we're getting offers from 17 different species. They want to trade everything they have for access to Earth's water supplies." Ryan rubbed his temples. "What kind of everything?" Sarah scrolled through the messages. "The mineral lords are offering their entire asteroid mining operation. The Tech Collective wants to give us their most advanced starship designs. The drought survivors from 3 different planets are offering to become our servants forever." "Servants?" Ryan asked, shocked. "That's what they said, sir. Forever servants in exchange for 1 cup of water per family member per year." Ryan had been exploring space for 15 years, but nothing had prepared him for this. How could he explain to these aliens that humans used water to wash their cars and water their gardens? On Earth, botanist Helen Murphy was having her own problems. She had been assigned to explain Earth's ecosystem to a delegation of alien scientists who had arrived the day before. The group was led by the Sandkin, a species that looked like walking dunes and came from a planet where water had never existed. "Naturally, Dr. Murphy," said their leader, Dustwalker in Starlight, through a translation device. "Before we begin, we must know, is this place you call Earth the legendary paradise realm spoken of in our ancient texts?" Helen blinked. "Well, it's our home planet. I wouldn't call it paradise exactly. We have our problems like anywhere else." The Sandkin delegation began making sounds like wind blowing through caves. Helen later learned this was how they expressed religious awe. "Problems?" Dustwalker asked. "In a realm where water falls from the sky?" Helen was starting to understand how the other species saw Earth. "Let me show you around our nature preserve," she said. "Maybe that will help explain how our planet works." They walked along a trail through a forest. To Helen, it was a normal walk through pretty woods. To the Sandkin, it was like touring a temple filled with impossible miracles. "The tall plants," Dustwalker whispered. "They are green because they contain water?" "Yes. Trees need lots of water to grow," Helen explained. "They pull it up from the ground through their roots." One of the Sandkin scientists fell to its knees and started digging in the dirt with its hands. "There is water in the ground?" it cried. "Water just sitting in the soil?" "Of course," Helen said. "How else would plants grow?" The scientist held up a handful of damp earth and began what Helen could only describe as sobbing. The other Sandkin gathered around their colleague, all of them touching the wet soil like it was made of precious gems. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the news about Earth was causing major political problems. On the water trading hub of New Venice, a space station where different species had met for centuries to exchange tiny amounts of precious water, the markets had completely crashed. The station's manager, a being called Bubble Counter Supreme, floated in its liquid-filled office and watched the prices fall to zero. For the first time in galactic history, nobody wanted to buy water. They all wanted to go to Earth instead. "How can we compete with a planet that has unlimited water?" Bubble Counter asked its assistant, a small crab-like creature. "Our most expensive premium water costs 1,000,000 credits per drop. These humans apparently splash around in pools of it for fun." The assistant checked its datapad. "Sir, we just received a report that humans have something called swimming pools filled with pure water that they jump into for entertainment." Bubble Counter Supreme's liquid form turned dark purple with distress. "Entertainment? They use pure water for entertainment?" "Back on Earth, The situation was getting more complicated every day. Captain Jake Phillips of the Meridian had been assigned to escort groups of alien visitors to Earth, but each visit created new problems. The first group was a delegation from the Moisture Monks, who had declared Earth a holy site and wanted to build a temple to worship human water management. They arrived wearing simple robes and carrying containers to collect blessed water to take back to their home worlds. "Captain Phillips," said their leader, Brother Dewdrop, "we wish to speak with your planet's water guardians." "Water guardians?" Jake asked. "The holy beings who control your planet's water distribution," Brother Dewdrop explained. "Surely such a miraculous system requires divine oversight." Jake thought about this. "I guess you could talk to the people who run our water treatment plants." The monks fell to their knees. "The sacred water temples. Yes, we must make pilgrimage to these holy sites." 3 hours later, Jake found himself giving a tour of the Denver water treatment plant to a group of aliens who treated every pipe and valve like a religious artifact. The plant manager, Bob Chen, was completely overwhelmed. "Brother Dewdrop," Bob said carefully, "this is just a water treatment plant. We clean the water so it's safe to drink." "You purify the sacred liquid?" Brother Dewdrop gasped. "And then you send it directly to people's homes? Through tubes?" "Well, yes," Bob said. "Everyone in the city gets clean water delivered right to their houses." The monks began chanting in their own language. Bob looked at Jake helplessly. "Captain," Bob whispered, "they're worshipping my water pumps." While the monks toured water treatment plants, other species were having different reactions to Earth's abundance. The drought survivors from Eridus 7 had sent a military fleet not to attack, but to protect Earth from anyone who might try to steal its water. General Scylla commanded the fleet from her flagship. She had never seen anything like Earth before. Through her ship's view screen, she could see white clouds covering parts of the blue planet. "Those white formations," she asked her science officer, "those are water clouds?" "Yes, General. Our sensors indicate they contain enough water to supply our entire homeworld for decades." Scylla sat back in her command chair, trying to understand what she was seeing. "And they just float there? In the sky?" "Apparently, General, they form naturally and release water regularly as precipitation." Scylla had fought in 3 wars over water rights. Her species had developed their entire military strategy around protecting tiny underground water reserves. The idea that water could just exist freely in the sky challenged everything she thought she knew about the universe. "Send a message to Earth's government," she ordered. "Tell them the drought survivors pledge our eternal protection. Anyone who threatens their water sources will face our entire fleet." But not all reactions were friendly. In the outer regions of the galaxy, the water cartels were planning something different. For thousands of years, they had controlled the galaxy's water trade, making enormous profits by keeping water scarce and expensive. Cartel boss Dripmaster Vex gathered his lieutenants in a secret meeting on their base asteroid. His species looked like giant sea slugs, but they were actually from a desert world and had never seen natural water in their lives. "This Earth situation threatens our entire operation," Vex said through his translation implant. "If word spreads that water can exist naturally, every species will demand to know why we've been charging such high prices." "What do we do, boss?" asked one of his lieutenants. Vex's eye stalks twitched with anger. "We make sure Earth's water stays a secret, or better yet, we take control of Earth and run their water production ourselves." Unknown to the cartels, their communications were being monitored by galactic security forces. Within hours, the information reached Commander Ryan Davis on the Atlas. "Sir," Lieutenant Sarah Kim reported, "we're detecting military movement from several hostile factions. They all seem to be heading toward Earth." Ryan looked at the tactical display showing dozens of ships moving through space. Some were coming to protect Earth, others to worship it, and a few to conquer it. All because humans drank water every day. "Send a priority message to Earth Command," Ryan ordered. "Tell them we might have accidentally started the galaxy's first water war." As ships moved through space toward Earth, Helen Murphy was still trying to explain basic biology to increasingly amazed alien visitors. Her latest group was from the Crystal Collective, beings made of living mineral who had never encountered liquid water before. "Dr. Murphy," said their representative, a being that looked like a walking gemstone, You say that humans are 60% water, yet you maintain solid form? That's right, Helen said. Water is part of our cellular structure. And you add more water to your bodies regularly? Yes, we drink it, cook with it, and bathe in it. The crystal being made a sound like rocks breaking. You submerge your entire body in water? Sure, it's called taking a bath or shower, Helen said. Most humans do it every day. The crystal being fell apart into a pile of glittering stones. The other crystal collective members quickly began reassembling their colleague, making high-pitched, chiming sounds that Helen assumed meant distress. When the being was put back together, it spoke in a whisper. Every day? You coat yourselves in pure water every day? Helen was beginning to understand that human hygiene was going to be. The first official alien expedition to Earth landed on a Tuesday morning in Colorado. Chief Surveyor Nixandra, a tall being with purple skin and 6 arms, led a team of 12 scientists from different species. They had come to verify the impossible, reports about Earth's water abundance. Dr. Chris Thompson, a marine biologist from the University of Colorado, stood waiting for them at the landing site. He had been chosen to guide the expedition because of his experience with aquatic ecosystems. What he hadn't expected was that the aliens would arrive wearing full environmental suits and carrying enough emergency supplies for a military operation. Welcome to Earth, Chris said as the aliens carefully exited their landing craft. Each one wore a different type of protective suit designed for their species' needs. Dr. Thompson, Nixandra said through her suit's communication system, we must proceed with extreme caution. Our instruments detect dangerous levels of moisture in your atmosphere. Chris looked around at the normal Colorado landscape. The morning, air was crisp and clean, with a few white clouds in the blue sky. To him, it was a beautiful day. To the aliens, it was apparently a toxic wasteland. The moisture you're detecting is just normal humidity, Chris explained. It's perfectly safe. Nixandra's suit began making warning beeps. Dr. Thompson, our readings show water vapor concentrations that should be lethal to all known life forms. Actually, Chris said gently, humans need moisture in the air to stay healthy. If the air was completely dry, we'd have trouble breathing. 2 of the alien scientists immediately activated their emergency backup life support systems. Chris had planned to start the tour at a nearby nature preserve, but it quickly became clear that even the walk there would be challenging for his visitors. Susan Wells, a park ranger who had volunteered to help with the tour, joined them as they slowly made their way along a paved trail. How are you able to walk without protective equipment? Asked Dr. Zilpha, a scientist who looked like a walking stick made of metal. The atmospheric moisture should be corroding your outer shell. Humans don't have shells, Susan explained. We have skin, and it actually needs moisture to stay healthy. Your protective covering requires water to function? Dr. Zilpha's suit made a sound like grinding gears. How is this possible? Before Susan could answer, they came to the first stop on their tour, a small lake surrounded by trees. The aliens stopped walking and stared at the water like they were looking at an alien artifact. This is Crystal Lake, Chris said. It's a popular spot for fishing and swimming. Swimming? Nixandra asked weakly. Yes, people get in the water for fun and exercise, Susan said. It's very relaxing. The alien scientists began frantically taking readings with their instruments. Some started what appeared to be emergency communications with their home worlds. Others seemed to be having trouble standing up. Dr. Thompson, said Dr. Quilnar, a being that looked like a large butterfly made of crystal. Are you claiming that this entire body of liquid water simply exists, without containment, without guards? Well, yes, Chris said. It's a natural lake. The water comes from underground springs and rainfall. Rainfall? Dr. Quilnar's wings started fluttering rapidly. You mentioned this before. Water, actually, falls from your sky? Chris looked up at the clouds. It looks like it might rain today, actually. See those dark clouds building up? Every alien in the group immediately activated their emergency protocols. Several began moving quickly back toward their ship. Others activated what appeared to be defensive force fields around their suits. Dr. Thompson, Nixandra said urgently, you must seek shelter immediately. If water begins falling from the sky, The environmental damage could be catastrophic. It's just rain, Susan said, trying to calm them down. It's completely natural. Plants and animals need rain to survive. As if summoned by her words, the first drops of rain began to fall. The aliens' reaction was immediate and dramatic. Warning sirens went off from their suits, emergency lights began flashing, and several of them fell to the ground in what appeared to be panic attacks. "Emergency evacuation protocols activated," Nixandra shouted. "All personnel return to the ship. Water bombardment in progress." Chris and Susan watched in amazement as the alien scientists ran for their lives from a light spring shower. Only Dr. Zilpha remained, standing perfectly still as raindrops hit his metallic form. "Dr. Zilpha," Chris called out, "are you okay?" The metal being didn't move for a long moment. Then very slowly, he held up one of his thin arms and let the raindrops hit it. His suit's speakers were silent except for a soft humming sound. "Dr. Thompson," Dr. Zilpha said finally, "on my world, a single drop of water like these would be worth more than all the metal in our planetary core." Chris felt a chill that had nothing to do with the rain. "How do your people survive?" "We extract trace moisture from mineral formations," Dr. Zilpha explained. "One family might share a few drops per year. And here," he looked up at the sky as more rain fell. "Here it simply falls from above, unlimited and free." The expedition's findings sent shockwaves across the galaxy. Within hours of receiving Dr. Zilpha's report, the Universal Resource Exchange crashed completely. The galactic economy had been built on the assumption that water was the rarest substance in the universe. Every trade agreement, every price structure, every economic theory was suddenly meaningless. On the trading station New Vegas, economic analyst Dr. Carol Price was trying to explain the crisis to panicking investors through a galactic video conference, TU. "And gentlemen," Carol said to the screen filled with alien faces, "we're looking at a complete restructuring of the galactic economy. If humans are correct about their planet's water abundance, then every resource pricing model we've used for the past 1,000 years is invalid." "Dr. Price," said an investor from the Silicon Collective, "are you telling us that our water futures, contracts are worthless?" "I'm saying that the concept of water scarcity may not exist anymore," Carol replied. "We need to completely rethink how we value resources." The economic chaos was matched by political upheaval. On dozens of worlds, governments that had stayed in power by controlling water supplies suddenly found themselves facing angry populations who wanted to know why they had been told water was so rare. The Chancellor of Eridus Prime called an emergency session of his parliament. His species had built their entire civilization around careful water rationing, with strict laws about who could access their underground reserves. "Citizens," the Chancellor announced, "we have received confirmation that the planet called Earth contains more water than exists in our entire star system." The Parliament erupted in angry voices. "Why did you tell us water was scarce?" demanded one representative. "Why have we been living on rationed drops when unlimited water exists elsewhere?" "We did not know," the Chancellor said weakly. No one knew. Similar scenes played out across the galaxy. The water cartels, who had controlled the galactic water trade for centuries, were seeing their power collapse overnight. Their carefully maintained monopoly was crumbling as species demanded access to Earth's resources. But Earth was having its own problems dealing with the sudden attention. President Maria Gonzalez stood in the White House Situation Room, looking at a map that showed ships from 47 different species heading toward Earth. "Madam President," said General Robert Kim, "we have everything from refugee fleets to scientific expeditions to what appear to be religious pilgrimages all converging on our planet." "What do they want?" the President asked. "Water," General Kim said simply. "They all want our water." The President rubbed her temples. "How much water are we talking about?" "According to their requests, enough to supply their entire civilizations," General Kim replied. "Some species are offering to trade their entire planets for access to our oceans." Dr. Patricia Evans, the President's science advisor, pulled up holographic displays showing Earth's water cycle. "Madam President, we need to understand that to these aliens our planet is like a mythical treasure vault. Most species in the galaxy survive on tiny amounts of water that they have to mine or synthesize. The idea that water naturally exists in large quantities is revolutionary to them. The president looked at the images of Earth's oceans, rivers, and lakes. For her entire life, she had taken them for granted. How do we handle this? We can't exactly give away our oceans. We might not have a choice, General Kim said grimly. Some of these incoming fleets are from military powers. If they decide to take our water by force, before he could finish, an aide rushed into the room. Madam President, we're receiving a transmission from something called the Galactic Security Council. They want to discuss establishing Earth as a protected water sanctuary. The president sat down heavily in her chair. 3 months ago, humans had been alone in the universe. Now they were apparently the most important species in the galaxy, all because they had something that everyone else desperately needed. Get me Ambassador Martinez on the line, she said, and find out exactly how many alien ships are heading our way. As ships moved through space toward Earth, carrying desperate species from across the galaxy, Chris Thompson and Susan Wells were still trying to give tours to alien visitors. The rain had stopped, but the aliens were now treating every puddle like a sacred site. 6 months had passed since Ambassador Lisa Martinez first shocked the Galactic Council by drinking water, and the universe looked completely different. Lisa now sat at the head of a massive conference table in the newly built Galactic Coordination Center in Geneva, Switzerland. Outside the windows, she could see ships from dozens of alien species parked in what used to be a simple lake. The table around her was filled with representatives from species across the galaxy, all of them part of the newly formed Hydration Alliance. What had started as a diplomatic crisis had somehow turned into the most successful peaceful cooperation effort in galactic history. The monthly distribution report announced Dr. Janet Foster, Earth's new Secretary of Galactic Water Resources. Janet had been an economics professor just 6 months ago. Now she was managing the most important trade network in the galaxy. This month we successfully delivered water supplies to 47 different star systems, Janet continued. The drought survivors of Eridus 7 report that their first natural rain in 5,000 years has begun, thanks to our atmospheric seeding program. Around the table, alien representatives made sounds of approval in dozens of different languages. The transformation had been incredible to watch. Species that had fought bitter wars over single drops of water were now working together to build distribution networks and conservation systems. Lisa smiled as she remembered how it all started. The turning point had come when the first major crisis hit 3 months ago. The water cartels, desperate to maintain their profits, had tried to blockade Earth and prevent other species from accessing human water resources. The battle had lasted less than an hour. Every species in the galaxy that had ever been cheated by the cartels sent their fleets to protect Earth. The cartels found themselves facing over 300 warships from 40 different civilizations, all united for the first time in galactic history. Ambassador Martinez, said Commander Siskala of the Drought Survivors, who now served as head of Galactic Water Transport Security. The former cartel leaders have completed their rehabilitation program. They wish to formally apologize for their previous actions. Lisa nodded. The rehabilitation program had been Dr. Patricia Evans' idea. Instead of punishing the cartels, Earth had offered to teach them about water conservation and sustainable distribution. Most of the former cartel bosses were now working as water system engineers on planets that had never had reliable water access before. Send them in, Lisa said. The former cartel boss Dripmaster Vex entered the room, looking very different from the threatening figure he had been months ago. His sea slug-like appearance was the same, but he now wore the blue uniform of the Galactic Water Conservation Corps. Ambassador Martinez, Vex said through his translator, his voice humble. I have come to report on the completion of the water distribution system for the Outer Rim colonies. How did the project go? Lisa asked. Better than we ever imagined, Vex replied. We were able to provide clean water access to over 2 billion beings who had never had reliable water sources before. The engineering principles we learned from Earth's water systems made it possible. Lisa felt proud as she listened to the report. The galactic community had discovered something amazing. When water wasn't scarce, species could focus on other things. Art, science, exploration, and cooperation had flourished across the galaxy, as civilizations no longer needed to spend all their energy fighting over water rights. Engineer Mike Harrison, who had been called in from the Denver Water Department to help design galactic distribution systems, raised his hand. "Ambassador, I have an update on the terraforming projects." "Go ahead, Mike," Lisa said. "We've successfully introduced water cycles to 12 previously uninhabitable planets," Mike reported. "The atmospheric processors are working perfectly, and we're seeing the first natural precipitation on worlds that have been dry for millions of years." The representative from the Crystal Collective, Dr. Zilpha, made a sound like wind chimes. "Mr. Harrison, my people wish to express our gratitude. Again, our world has experienced its first natural streams in recorded history." Mike smiled. "It's amazing what happens when you have enough water to work with. Back on Earth, we never realized how lucky we were." The transformation hadn't been limited to water distribution. The galactic economy had stabilized in ways no one had expected. Dr. Carol Price, now serving as the Director of Galactic Economic Transition, stood to give her report. "The new economic model is working better than our projections suggested," Carol announced. "With water scarcity eliminated, species have been able to focus on developing other resources and technologies. Trade in art, knowledge, and cultural exchange has increased by over 3,000%. "What about the species that used to control water supplies?" asked the representative from the Vapor Collective. "Most have successfully transitioned to new industries," Carol said. "The Ice Haulers Union now operates the galaxy's most efficient transportation network. The moisture monks have become our most effective teachers for water conservation techniques." Brother Dewdrop, representing the moisture monks, stood and bowed. "We have found greater spiritual fulfillment in teaching others to cherish water than we ever did in hoarding it ourselves." Lisa looked around the table at the diverse group of beings working together. It was hard to believe that just 6 months ago, most of these species had been enemies or strangers. The simple act of sharing water had created bonds that were reshaping galactic civilization. "I have some special news to share," Lisa announced. "Dr. Patricia Evans has completed her study on Earth's ecosystem impact." Dr. Patricia Evans, now Director of Galactic Environmental Studies, activated a holographic display that showed Earth and dozens of other planets. "We've made an incredible discovery," Patricia said. "As we've shared Earth's water and introduced natural water cycles to other worlds, we're seeing the development of entirely new ecosystems. Life is beginning to emerge on planets that have been sterile for millions of years." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. They weren't just sharing water, they were creating life. "How is this possible?" asked Nixandra, the former chief surveyor who now served as head of planetary development. "Water is more than just a resource," Patricia explained. "It's the foundation of biological systems. When we provide water to dry worlds, we're giving them the building blocks for life itself." The representative from the Desert Alliance, a small lizard-like being named Sktar, raised a claw. "Dr. Evans, are you saying that our home worlds could support natural life?" "Not just support it," Patricia said with a smile. "They could create it. We're already seeing primitive organisms developing in the new water systems on several worlds." Lisa felt a warm feeling spread through her chest as she watched the alien representatives process this information. Many of them were from species that had never seen natural life beyond their own kind. The idea that their worlds could bloom with new forms of life was overwhelming. "There's something else," Lisa said. "The President has authorized me to make an announcement about Earth's newest project." She activated another holographic display that showed a massive space station under construction near Earth's moon. "This is the Galactic Friendship Station," Lisa announced. "It will serve as a permanent meeting place for all species, with facilities designed for every type of being in our alliance." "What makes it special?" asked Dr. Quilnar from the Crystal Collective. Lisa smiled. "It will have the galaxy's first interspecies water park." The room erupted in excited sounds from dozens of different species. The idea of playing together in water, something that had been unthinkable when water was precious, represented everything that had changed about galactic civilization. Mike Harrison stood up, grinning. I've been working on the design with teams from every species. We'll have sections for aquatic beings, crystal formations for mineral-based life, and atmospheric chambers for gaseous species. Everyone will be able to experience water recreation together. Brother Dewdrop began weeping with joy. To think that water, once so precious that we fought wars over single drops, will now be used for friendship and play across species. As the meeting continued, Lisa looked out the window at the alien ships floating peacefully on the lake. Children from Earth were playing on the shore while young aliens watched from their environmental suits, slowly learning that water was safe and wonderful. The transformation had been incredible, but Lisa knew it was just the beginning. Reports were coming in from the galaxy's edges about species that hadn't been contacted yet, civilizations that were still fighting water wars and didn't know that abundance was possible. Our next phase, Lisa announced, will be the Great Outreach Project. We're going to find every species in the galaxy that's still struggling with water scarcity and offer them partnership in our alliance. Commander Esiskala nodded approvingly. The Drought Survivors fleet stands ready to help. We know what it's like to live without water, and we want to make sure no one has to experience that desperation again. As the meeting ended and the representatives began to leave, Lisa remained at the table for a moment, thinking about how much had changed. Ambassador Veltar, her first alien contact, approached her.